So now that you kind of know a little bit about your supplies, we're going to try and use those supplies to create value in our organic shapes project. And so remember, value is the lightness or darkness of an area in an artwork. And basically, what we're going to try and do is we are going to take our black and white reference photos and we are going to try and recreate them using graphite and value. So I think it's a good idea to analyze your artwork and pick out the areas that are darker and lighter. You can even trace them on your reference if that helps you to kind of block out the different areas. Here's the reference photo I'm working with. It's a lot more simple than the photo students are working with, but I did that on purpose so that I could finish this demonstration relatively quickly. But notice some of the highlights and shadows as well as the midtones. I'm going to try and replicate that as best as I can. So I'm going to be shading a succulent plant. And so I think it's helpful if you go from light to dark. And so you may find it easy to kind of block out some of the areas and very lightly of where there's going to be dark areas compared to light areas. If you look closely, you can kind of see where I've blocked out where there will be some intense changes in shadows and highlights. I think it's easy to do that before you start shading so you have a little bit of a plan of where to put everything. So let's start from light to dark. And I'll go ahead and I'll start with this back leaf. When you're adding lighter values, it's a good idea to hold the pencil like this so that you can get some really light values, and so that you don't put a whole lot of pressure on your pencil. If you want darker values, you want to hold it closer to the tip like this, or even like this if you prefer to hold your pencil like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to lightly add some values in this leaf back here. And if you draw light enough, it probably doesn't matter too much if you go outside the line, because you should easily be able to go back and erase some of those things. I think I might just put down some light value in the whole thing. You'll also find that if you color in a circular motion, that you will get more even, flat values, as opposed to coloring back and forth. That will give you more of a scribbled in look, and things will look uneven. And so it's a good idea if you try and color in circular motions, whether it's smaller circles or bigger circles. If you're drawing in lighter value, you'll probably want to use a bigger circle, once again, so you don't focus too much pressure on your pencil. And I'll probably add some more value into the rest of the succulent plant. So once again, I'm holding my pencil at the tip, the very edge. I'm just going in light circles to get just a really light value over everything. So I've got that, and if you want, you can clean up the edges immediately, or you can wait till the end. Sometimes you'll just have to do this pretty often to get a nice clean edge. And in the video before, you can use your kneaded eraser and you can kind of squish it so you have a really tiny tip, and this helps to get nice precise detail when you're erasing things. So I've got some really light value now. What I can do is I'll probably switch pencils. Maybe I'll use a 4B or a 6B. And I'll move my hand more towards the tip of the pencil on the sharpened side, and I'll just kind of go in. In fact, I think I will use a 6B. I'll just go in and I'll start coloring in circles to develop some more value. Right off the bat, I'm noticing that this value is pretty accurate, but this value isn't. So sometimes you can fix that by going in and using the blending tortillon to even things out. But if you run into any problems like that, all you have to do is just you can go over it lightly with an eraser and kind of fix that up. You can kind of dab at it a little bit. And then you can go back in and just try and color in a really lighter value. So you'll find that when you're working with value, you'll want to take things slow. Because if you try and put down values all at once, they often don't really turn out correct. They might look pretty off. It's a good idea if you just focus on trying to build correct layers of value and kind of build them up in different layers, and you can add and subtract as much as you like. So your eraser often becomes just as an important tool for creating value as a pencil is, as well as your blending tortillon. So I'll work on the middle one now. So it's got some lighter values. It kind of has a darker area about right here. And so it's good to just start as soft as you can, as light as you can. And gradually, as you draw more circles and draw in more values, you'll gradually build that up. And it'll become darker, and eventually it'll become exactly the right value you are hoping for. As long as you're patient and as long as you work with it. And I think it also helps if you color in those circles in a circular motion. You can alternate back and forth between the blending tortillon and the eraser and the pencils. We're looking for a realistic object. You don't really want harsh lines or harsh areas. You want it all to be nice and blended and realistic looking. And this process will help you achieve that. So at some point you'll want to go back and check your progress. Throughout this whole process, it's important that you always keep an eye on your reference photo and you are continuously comparing to make sure you're putting in values in the right spot. But it also helps to pause and stop completely for a little bit, sometimes even to walk away and look at your artwork from a distance, or give yourself some time. Because when you get back to your artwork, you often find a few things that your eyes have missed. For example, in this area, there should have been a highlight. And I need to work on blending the highlights better because they need to be blended in more. That's one of the issues I've found. And so it's good to just take a break sometimes, try and figure out what you need to do to fix things. And then also remember that it's important to blend things properly. We don't want to have any sudden, jarring value transitions. We want everything to try and look as blended and as realistic as possible. So when I step back from this area, I notice that this part is really dark, and this part's really light. And when they meet up together, it causes quite a sudden value transition that I need to kind of blend out and work out. So to fix that, all I need to do is add a little bit more value in this area to blend out this harsh line that seems to be forming about right here. And I don't want to go too dark because then that will just extend the line further up. I can even try to erase a little bit. That's the Organic Shapes project. Try to remember these steps for shading because they will also come in handy for any other value projects you create or coloring projects as well. And so good luck. Let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing your finished Organic Shapes projects.